So in some form or other in medicine, we have been utilizing electronic media in some form or the other for delivery of the medical services. And telerehabilitation happens to be one such subdomain under the broad umbrella terminology of telehealth, e-health services. So if you look at this picture, we can see that from 1840 was the time when the very first electronic device in the form of an electrical telegraph was designed. And if you look at this entire timeline from 1840 till today, where we are, the use of tele-rehabilitation or tele-modes of services have greatly enhanced. So right from a telegraph to a telephone to utilizing radio waves to a television, today we are in the era of internet and very high-end technological services. So to start with tele-rehabilitation. Tele-rehabilitation is the delivery of rehabilitation services over telecommunication networks and the internet. It is a very novel method that will enable us to provide rehabilitation to individuals remotely located and also outside a very typical rehabilitation setting. Now, the question is who can use tele-rehabilitation? If you are a healthcare provider, you belong to an educational institute, or you are in a hospital based setting, tele-rehabilitation is one such tool that you all can use. Now, if we go on to understanding when did all this tele-rehabilitation start, the very first scientific paper on tele-rehabilitation dates back to a publication in 1998. So you see, we have started off long back. And somehow now in this COVID pandemic, there has been a new shift in understanding this particular mode of delivery of care. And I'm sure that in the months ahead, even after the pandemic, tele-rehabilitation is going to be an excellent tool. So now, speaking of the COVID pandemic, all of us are aware the SARS-CoV pandemic has hit the world globally. And in India, we started seeing cases from almost January and February of 2020. And we know that the first lockdown was announced in March. And ever since then, we are in an on-off cycle of the lockdowns. Finally, we are out of the second wave, but we are awaiting the third wave to arrive, which is anytime soon. So masking, and now it is double masking and frequent temperature checks and social distancing. These terms have become a part of our normal life. And definitely, as COVID cases are now increasing with the third wave anytime soon, there is also an increase in the number of testings and the number of people who are getting vaccinated. Now, over these last few months, since March of 2020, a lot of focus has been given to rehabilitation for patients with COVID-19. And I'm sure that all of you who are reading the top newspapers of our country, you are going to be seeing one such article very frequently since 2020, where different physiotherapy rehabilitation techniques have been spoken about, their benefits have been discussed, right from relieving breathlessness to fatigue to dyspnea and much more. So now, coming to the core topic, when we speak about the common symptoms of COVID-19, if you see from March, there has been a big change in the way the symptoms have been presenting. As of today, the very common symptoms of COVID-19 include a high-grade fever, there is a dry cough, and feeling of tiredness or fatigue. These have been reported to be the three most common symptoms of patients with COVID-19. Now, looking at the other less common symptoms. So these include the aches and pains and irritation in the throat, with a very small percentage of patients reporting of diarrhea, conjunctivitis, a headache, loss of taste and smell, or any kind of a discoloration on the skin. However, some of the symptoms which are really life-threatening involve shortness of breath, SOB as it is called, the difficulty of breathing, chest pain, or the next one being the loss of speech or movement. Now, you might be wondering why I had to discuss all these various symptoms. As a physiotherapist, it is very important for us to understand what is the symptom a patient is presenting. If the symptoms are too severe, certain things can be out of our control to handle. So, when you know what symptoms a patient exactly has, the line of care that you can deliver will be very effective. So, now we come to understanding how to use tele-rehabilitation for a COVID-19 patient. Now, you can see three pictures on the screen. One where there's somebody with a face mask. In the second picture, somebody is holding an incentive spirometer, and similar figure in the third picture. But before we decide for tele-rehabilitation, there are certain things which are extremely important for us. Number one being, what is the characteristic of COVID-19 infection? So the characteristic of the COVID-19 infection largely depends on the symptom that the patient will be presenting, which we saw in the previous slide. Now, based on this symptom that the patient has, we have to find out what is the best outcome that I or you can assess in this patient. After identifying that particular outcome that requires to be treated, we have to decide on the most effective rehab strategy that can be used. So now, let's quickly understand this classification of a COVID-19 patient. So I've divided it into two categories. Green resembles an asymptomatic patient, while red resembles symptomatic. I have given these color codes so that in the later slides, you will be able to very quickly identify what is the case that we are looking at. So green is asymptomatic and red is symptomatic. So now, when we see that a patient has got tested with COVID-19, it is very important to make the right decisions for care. So there is a decision protocol that needs to be decided. And for that, you can refer to this slide that is being presented. Now, without discussing much on this, I'll quickly go on to the next slide. So when we talk about a patient who is asymptomatic, now who is an asymptomatic person? These are the individuals with COVID-19 who have tested positive, but they show absolutely no signs and symptoms. And most of the times, even their chest radiographs are absolutely normal. They maintain a good saturation, anything above 96%. They don't show any desaturation on activity. And most of them are recommended a home isolation, and hardly a few of them are given a medication. And if the medication is given, it is usually a multivitamin tablet. Now, why we should focus a little more on these asymptomatic patients? Most of the time, these asymptomatic patients don't require tele-rehab. So this is something we should keep in mind. Now, who are these patients who get tested positive? These patients could have received both the doses of the vaccine. They could have had a travel history, and maybe somewhere during their travel, they caught an infection, but they are totally unaware. So this category may not require a tele-rehabilitation. However, if you come across someone under this category, you can definitely give them the instructions that they can follow so that they prevent any further transmission of COVID to a healthy family member. Now, we look at the more symptomatic cases. So when we see the symptomatic patients, okay, it starts with very critical patients, with then coming to severe infection, then a moderate infection, and then a mild infection. Okay, so I've given these color codes, as you can see: yellow for mild, orange for moderate, red for severe, and pink for critical. So higher the color, meaning more the severity. So now, when we speak about these symptomatic patients who are critical or severe, okay, so for any patient who is critical, it is very obvious that they are going to be admitted in an ICU setting and they do require an intensive care support. So these patients will definitely be involved under a mechanical ventilation. So they can be sedated or they can be minimally sedated. So now for this category of patients, the COVID protocols of a particular hospital is something that the physiotherapist must follow based on the ICU team's care. So in this webinar, we will not be discussing about these patients who are mechanically ventilated. However, the focus of this webinar will be on those patients who were hospitalized Now, post-COVID recovery, they got discharged, they came back home. They have a lot of weakness. So for the post-COVID patients, then for patients with a moderate infection and with a mild infection, the focus of this webinar will be. Okay, now quickly just looking at a very critical patient. So I'll not discuss too much on this. So these are patients who will require a very high oxygen support. They are on a ventilation with very unstable hemodynamic parameters. And most of the time, they have multiple organs involved with sepsis, acute respiratory distress syndrome. There is shock, pneumonia. So care for these patients is very different. Next, we come on to the severe category. This category is slightly less than the very critical cases. So they can be, mildly sedated, but still unstable. And mechanical ventilation or a non-invasive care is of utmost importance to these patients. And they also have very unstable hemodynamic parameters. So now we will not put too much focus on this category. Now, what is of importance to us? If you are a therapist and you are getting a referral for a tele-rehabilitation, majority of your patients would come under three categories. So the first one will be a post-COVID discharge patient or someone with a moderate or someone with a mild symptom. Now, to understand what is a mild symptom patient with COVID, these patients have a moderate pneumonia, sometimes may not, but they do show a change in their saturation levels. Most of them are tachycardic and have a high hemodynamic variability. Some of them are on a supplemental oxygen, either through a Venturi mask or through the nasal prongs. Anywhere the oxygen supplementation can be anywhere between 1 liter or 4 liters up to 10 liters also in a few patients. And these patients show you symptoms like fever, cough, breathlessness, and tiredness is one of their very common symptoms. However, the mild pneumonic cases, these may or may not have a symptom, but taking care of them is again very important because they do have a chance for a hemodynamic instability if their saturations are going to drop. Now, with all this in mind, I'm sure you're trying to think of how should we go about with rehabilitation. So there are some confusions and we'll try to solve those. So now before you start tele-rehab for your patient, there are certain things to be taken care of. And for these, you need to have an excellent assessment toolkit. Now, what do I mean by an assessment toolkit? Now, this starts with you having a detailed information about the patient's name, their demographic details, details of any past medical history, a surgical history, any travel history. Thereafter, followed by what was the previous activity level of this patient. Was this patient confined to their household? Were they involved in active sports-based activities, or were they living a very sedentary life? These questions become extremely relevant to us when we get a referral for tele-rehabilitation. Now, before you even start off with a tele-rehab session, when you have just got a referral, there are certain things you and I as therapists need to keep in mind. So what are these things? Number one is you should have a complete detailed medical history of the patient with the factors that I discussed. Apart from this, whatever COVID related tests have been conducted, be it an RT-PCR report, a CORAD scoring, the chest X-ray, a CT report, anything and everything associated with COVID, your patient must definitely share these resources with you so that you as a therapist are very clear as to how to go about with rehabilitation. Never miss out on taking this information because it might be difficult or you may go wrong in the assessment of your patient and later you shouldn't be in a state of a problem. So now with this in mind, also there is another thing to take, to be noticed. Make sure that your participants, they always have a pulse oximeter at home. Any patient without a pulse oximeter is definitely a big no to start a tele-rehabilitation. So even before you start off with the tele-rehab sessions, the actual sessions for your patient, take one day prior where you talk to the patient you talk to the patient's caregiver, because many a times the referrals that you may get will be older adults who may have hearing difficulties, they may have visual difficulties. So having a family member involved in the care will make your life easy, and also it will get the technical difficulties also sorted out, because the mobile phones and all will be accessed by a family member, so the elderly person or the affected person may not necessarily have to touch these gadgets. Another practical tip: make sure that the family member, if they are present while you're giving the session, they are also double masked or wearing a proper N95 mask. Because many a times I have seen this in my practice, that a family member is just roaming around the patient, absolutely not bothered about being infected. So please make sure that these things are taken care of. So have the checklist ready before you actually start with your tele rehab sessions. Okay, so this is a very practical overview. Now we will look at every individual symptom. Now, as we saw in the previous slides, one of the most common symptoms that a patient reports to you with mild, moderate, or a post-COVID recovery is a dry cough. So usually the dry cough is anywhere for like 2 to 3 days, and it becomes productive after the fourth day. So in the initial days, when you start rehab for such a patient with cough, it might be difficult for the patient to understand what are the techniques that you're making them do. But if your patient has a productive cough wherein they are able to expectorate, that is the best time when these maneuvers that you will teach a patient will become very, very effective. So, for cough clearance, as we are all aware, breathing techniques will be extremely beneficial. So, during a tele rehab session, before you start, make sure that you have given a thorough patient education about these breathing techniques. One practical tool that I would like to discuss is that don't teach too many breathing techniques. Okay, too much may confuse your patient. So make sure that you are dealing with their anxiety, all of their questions. So keep the rehab very simple but yet very effective. So if we were to discuss about the breathing techniques, you can start off by teaching the patient a very gentle pursed lip breathing, something as simple as a pursed lip breathing and a diaphragmatic breathing technique can work wonders in getting some amount of irritation in the throat, whereby the patient may automatically start feeling to cough. I have seen that when you're treating patients with too many complicated therapies like an ACBT, I'm not saying ACBT is a wrong technique, it is an excellent technique, but it is important that the patient has a certain level of cognition while you teach them ACBT, because it has too many cycles, you can confuse a patient. Instead, choose simple, stick to the simpler techniques because they are very, very effective. So you can start off with the breathing techniques. Second thing is teach them a splinted huffing and coughing. Now, what happens is all of these patients, because in the initial 2, 3 days, it was just a dry cough. So they have been continuously coughing that their entire upper respiratory tract is completely inflamed. The skin literally has flakes on the inner linings, and that tends to irritate them. So always teach them the correct splinted huffing and coughing techniques. That can be a self-splinted technique, or they can use a pillow, a towel, they can have a chest binder, anything is fine. But splinting is very important so that they get a feedback about the pressure that they are putting while they are trying to cough. Now, the next technique is postural drainage. Postural drainage is also extremely effective in the patient. But what we have to remember, when you are suggesting postural drainage to your patients, just make sure that you have certain printouts with you. So this printout can be, just a colored picture of the lung, and you can also have printouts of the various postural drainage positions. So for example, if you have received an X-ray of a patient wherein they have an involvement of the right side of the lung, the middle lobes and the lower lobes, you can use these pictures that you have taken printout of and show it to the patient that I want you to use, this particular technique. Because when you're going to demonstrate, it might be difficult, but having something to represent, give a visual, representation, that can be very easy. So postural drainage is very, very good, which you can 100% do safely through tele rehab. And during any of these activities, the Patients should always be wearing their pulse oximeter so that you are constantly monitoring them. The next one is ACBT. ACBT technique, I leave it as an option to you to choose whether you want to do it or not, because this is completely dependent on how well a patient can understand the technique. So even if you don't do this, the above three techniques with in terms of a breathing, in terms of draining the cough through splinted coughing and postural drainage, they also are very, very effective strategies to clear cough, which is one of the most critical, very irritating symptom for a patient, because they just are unable to talk to you also during the rehab. Imagine you asking a question, how do you feel today? And they take a deep breath, and before they can tell you they are feeling okay or not okay, you just hear them cough, 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 cough for a very long time. So please address cough the very first day from your session. Do not miss out on cough, and teach your patient the splinted huffing and coughing techniques. Now, this was about how we can get the cough out. Now, something that is also again important to us is how can we assess this cough? Now, there are a lot of things which are evolved, behind this concept of cough. Now, I can be asking the patient, "Sir, madam, how is your cough? Are you able to remove it out?" So they may say, "No, ma'am, I'm not able to remove. I feel it is very sticky in the throat." Some of them may tell you, "Huh, I was able to remove, but very little came out." So if they are able to expectorate, then it is important for us to understand what was the quantity. Was it too much? Was it too less? Was it very thick? Was it thin? Was it transparent? Was it mild yellow? Was it with fluorescent green color? Or did it have any maroon or brown, black colored uh, cough? So these colors and the way the patient expresses it to you is also very important. So sometimes even if we are asking the patient so many questions, they are not in a state to understand and give us the right answers. In such cases, what I highly recommend is go for using certain assessment tools. Okay, I have listed three tools for cough. So the first one is a cough visual analog scale. I'm sure all of you have heard about the VAS scale. Now, this one is a very specific scale for cough. So the patient has to, you can just send it to the patient through WhatsApp, and you can just ask them, "बताइए आपको कैसे feel हो रहा है?" The patient can tell you, "Madam, हाँ आज ऐसा ये मेरा आज का symptom है." So you will get some idea. That will be something objective for you to understand. Or if you're dealing with a patient who is educated, who can understand English, you can definitely use the Lister Cough questionnaire. Now, this questionnaire is really good. It has a certain set of questions, and these questions are so specific. It is asking the patient details like, do you have difficulty when you talk? So they have to grade between 1, 2, 3. So you can just send this scale. It's a freely available tool on the internet. You can just download these relevant scales and send it to your patient through WhatsApp. Ask them to just give the scoring. So on the first day, oh, my patient had this score. Okay, now today we have completed 5 sittings. Take a reassessment, see how they are scoring, because this is the best kind of scoring you can do, because a patient is giving their own perception more than we as a therapist estimating. Patient's perception is very important. The third one is the cough severity index. This is another freely available tool. I expect all of you to just go and explore these tools and use them practically, because they are very effective. Now, we'll go to the second very, very important symptom: shortness of breath. This is very common for anyone with a moderate infection, or somebody who has got, discharge after post-COVID long ICU stay of 3 or 4 weeks. They have a lot of weakness of the respiratory muscles and whatnot. In such patients, it is extremely important that we teach various dyspnea relieving positions. So before you even start teaching the patient dyspnea relieving positions, you can do a very simple thing. While you're just looking at the patient through your device, be it a laptop or be it your mobile phone, just observe your patient. You can ask them to do a simple breathing technique, maybe a pursed lip, and just observe. Just look at the way they use their neck, the way they use their shoulders and their chest. Most of them may do very weird, very peculiar movements. They might extremely shrug their shoulders, their face would be down. These are signs that the patient is uncomfortable. And many a times the patients would not just share these with you. Either they are hesitant about receiving the tele rehab, or for some reason their mood is off during the therapy. So you as a therapist, or I as a therapist, we have to be very, very observant. So once you observe that there is some deviation in these postural, the postures that the patient is assuming, definitely target simple dyspnea relieving positions. So while you're giving the therapy, while the patient is sitting on a chair, give them a few pillows. Let them cross their hands on the pillow, just gently bend forward. If they are standing, ask them to lean against the wall. These simple things can drastically change the way the patient is feeling dyspnea. And most importantly, explain to the patient that dyspnea is very common and there is nothing to worry about it. So it's a challenge for us as a therapist to gain that first level of trust with the patient, because what happens, you start the therapy, you just teach them a simple pulse lip breathing, okay, and the patient is wearing their pulse oximeter. So when you started, they had a pulse oximeter, SpO2 was around maybe 94%, and they did 2 3 repetitions of this pulse lip breathing, and then they are looking at their saturation probe and they are like, doctor, this is abhi to 88 ho gaya, 90 ho gaya. So they start panicking. So just tell them it is fine, it is okay to feel something different, because they have never taken breathing patterns in such a specific way. See, all of us are breathing, we are breathing even now. So what is so special about teaching a breathing technique? So try to make your patient understand that the kind of breathing they do normally versus the kind of breathing that they would do from a more therapeutic point of view are very different. And when you start therapy, it is very natural to see a small fluctuation, and it is perfectly fine. So say these statements so that your patients gain the right amount of confidence. Okay. Now, talking about dyspnea, again, you can assess dyspnea with some of the very commonly known tools. One is the MRC dyspnea scale, a very simple scale. If you don't want to use the scale, there are other two simple scales like the Borg scale, very, very easy. You can just have a printout with you and you can use the modified Borg where there is a scoring from 0 to 10. So just show that scale to your patient and ask them, Aaj aapko kaise lag raha hai? So maybe the patient says, no, today I'm not feeling good, doctor. Their score would be higher. Maybe on a modified Borg, they would be around 8. So you know that, okay, today therapy has to go slow. Some days your patient would feel way better. They would say, no, doctor, today I feel good, 2 or 3. So you knew their energies are getting better. So please use certain objective assessment tools, because you will be able to quantify every symptom. And at this stage where we are today with the pandemic, just giving something may not work. So use some assessment tool. Don't go for anything which is very high funda. Go for something simple, but yet it will be effective. Okay. Now, coming to the third very, very common symptom, fatigue. Every other patient, okay, be it whether they are 18 years, whether they are 80 years, they are 50, 60 years, everyone has fatigue. And this fatigue is so common even after they finish their 14 days of medications. They have fatigue for 1 month, 2 months. Some of the older patients have fatigue up to 2.5 and 3 months. So fatigue assessment is very important, because while these patients have had COVID, their body has gone through so many changes at multiple systemic levels. Their respiratory muscles have been challenged, their diaphragm has been overworked, their skeletal muscles have overreact to all this inflammatory reactions of the body. One, because of the medicines, and second, because of the cytokine and the various inflammatory reactions as a side effect of COVID. So all this at a very muscular level is going to damage the skeletal muscles. So it is very obvious that your patient will 100% out of fatigue. I just request all of you to stay muted. Yeah, thank you. So when we speak about the skeletal muscle, again, there is going to be a lot of weakness. So what are those effective tools you can use? You can go for a very simple fatigue severity scale. It has just 9 questions. Okay, very, very simple 9 questions. You can again send this small one-page PDF document to your patient. Ask them to score. So 9 questions, they will score it. You have a sum score. Check it after a few days, check after 1 week, check after at the end of the second week. You will see how there is a change. The fatigue was low. With therapy, it's getting better. So use such tools. The other tool is a fatigue assessment scale, and the third one is the Chandler fatigue scale. See, there are a lot of scales available. I have just picked up these scales because they are very freely available and you don't require any permission to use them. Freely accessible scales, and they hardly take 1 minute or 2 minutes for any patient to fill. So definitely look at all of these scales. Now, after all of these symptoms, the one thing that is completely compromised in a COVID patient is the way they live their life, the quality of life. They are stuck in their house, they are unable to move. Even if they want to move, they feel tired. Their relations with family, friends, overall health, both mental health, the physical health, emotional health, everything has drastically changed. And because of this, they end up developing a lot of anxiety and stress, and that also can add on to making them feel way more worse, and that will make you and me as a therapist increase our rehab sessions. So please make sure that you also deal with the mental aspect of the patient, because mental health is extremely important, and we as a therapist can definitely add on something for mental health also. So now, after all of these symptoms that we saw, cough, breathlessness, fatigue, the one very common thing in the body that gets affected is the functional capacity of the patient. Now, when I say the functional capacity, what do I mean? I'm talking about the way our body functions on a day-to-day level, the way our heart is pumping, our lungs are breathing, our lungs are expanding during our breaths, the way our muscles are working, and the way our kidneys are functioning. So every organ in the body plays a big role for us to function independently. And with this COVID pandemic, every system in the body is affected. So functional capacity of the patient is again completely lost. Now, before we go on to the next slides, there are certain very, very useful tests, very simple tests that you can do while you're sitting at your home through your mobile phone and your laptop, and you will still get a very accurate understanding of this patient's functional capacity. So the common assessments that we usually do would be, you can go for an MMT testing. But now when we speak about a manual muscle testing, it's obvious that in tele-rehabilitation, you're not going to manually give pressure to the patient's hand or, resist their muscles. So it's going to be difficult. So what are the tools that you can use by still getting a very clear-cut idea about what is this, status of my patient? So there are a few tests that I would like to discuss now. Okay. So the first test is the very, very simple timed up and go test. We've all heard of this test, very, very simple. All you have to do is ask your patient to sit down on a chair, a sturdy chair, and you ask them to keep a distance of 3 meters and have a small cone or any water bottle, anything that is available in their house. You set the timer, but before you start, first tell your patient what this test is all about. So this test will tell you about the balance of the patient, how their lower muscle strength and endurance is. So when you start for this patient, all you have to do is first explain to them that when you say start, they have to get up from their chair, walk, take a pivot around the cone and come back and sit down. So they can do this in the speed that is comfortable to them. And what you as a therapist have to do in the meantime, just record the number of seconds that they took. This is very useful. And I have also done this for my patients, and it gives you a very, very clear cut idea. Okay. And this timed up and go test, you can use it for anybody across all age groups, but it is very useful for any older patient. So anybody who's above 55 years or 60 years, this test is extremely good. There is a lot of scientific evidence available on the cutoff values. So you can just have the cutoff values written with you. So when your patient walks and comes back, maybe they took 22 seconds. So you know that, okay, this patient's lower limb seems to be slightly, compromised. They are unable to do this. Their endurance is less. They are taking more time. So for anybody who is above 60 years of age, a value or a score above 19 seconds indicates that they are at a risk for having their lower limbs involved. So the lower limbs can be weak, they can be fatigued. So that will increase their chances for having a fall inside their house itself. Anything which is below that value will indicate that there is somewhere a mild moderate involvement is there. So this test is a big thumbs up. You can 100% use. Now, the other very easy test to do is a 30-second sit to stand test. Now, the beauty of this test is that you can do it again for older people. You can also do it for younger people. No problem. Anybody above 60 years, this test is very good. So what are we trying to check in this test? We are checking the person's, again, the muscular strength and endurance of their lower limb muscles. So precisely the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the calf. So what is a person supposed to do? All you have to do is ask your patient to sit on a chair that doesn't have an armrest. The chair can be without an arm support. They have to sit with their hands crossed. Their feet are touching the floor. Their hip and knee are at a 90-degree angle. So the moment you ask your patient to start for 30 seconds, for 30 seconds time, the patient has to stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. And you can be counting the number of repetitions they have done this. Now, for anyone who is in the age group of 60 to 64, for men, the cutoff point is less than 14. So if they are able to do less than 14, means that definitely this patient requires a very vigorous rehab. For women, on the other hand, anything less than 12 is an indication that, okay, they are quite weak. Now, for any COVID patient, okay, even if they were previously very physically active, during this phase of COVID, on the very first or second day when you're assessing this, it is very common for a patient to not even do 10 repetitions. So 10 repetitions also not being able to perform is definitely a clear sign that their quadriceps muscles are being extremely compromised because of their COVID infection. So this is a very useful tool that you can check. So what you can do, you can check this on the first 2 days of your therapy, then teach them very good amount of lower limb strengthening exercises. Check something again at the end of the second week. What you will be able to see is that their number of repetitions are increasing. I had a patient who was 58 years, she was diabetic and hypertensive. The second, third day, when she was comfortable, when I did the 30-second sit to stand test, she was hardly able to do 8 repetitions, but her saturation was fine. So nothing to worry. But 8 and 10 repetitions is so less to be done, considering the cutoff and the normative values which are there. However, at the end of the second week, her repetitions went on to, she was easily performing 20 counts. So this gives you an objective finding that, okay, when we started, it was bad. Today, after 7, 8 sessions of tele-rehab, it has come down to 20. It has improved. So by using such tools, you can objectify how much is the change. And this is what we require today. Now, for some reason, if I was treating a patient and I couldn't treat them beyond a point and I'm giving them a referral elsewhere, so I should be in a position to tell the other physiotherapists that I did this assessment and these were the values and findings of my patient. So over to you now. You take the management forward and let me know thereafter how things have improved. So by doing these assessment tools, you have a very precise understanding of the patient because you have objective assessments instead of just saying that no, this patient is very tired, कुछ नहीं कर सकते, चलना difficult है, ठीक है, कितना चल सकते हैं, आपने वो टेस्ट किया, तो अगर किया है तो यू कैन से मैंने टग किया है इनके लिए, इनका टग का स्कोर लेस देन 18 सेकेंड्स था ऑन द सेकेंड डे, और आज आफ्टर 10 days इनका टग का स्कोर हो गया है और उनका टग का स्कोर इंप्रूव हो गया है. सो आई विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट ओके, so this patient has improved. So please use these outcome assessment tools that are freely available. Okay. The other very simple test is the 2-minute walk test. Now, before I talk about the 2-minute walk test, many of you may be thinking that 6 minutes is so common, हम तो 6 minutes चला सकते हैं. लेकिन just think, now you are giving a tele rehab, और tele rehab में क्या आपके पास 30 meters का वो कॉरिडोर है आपके पेशेंट के घर पे? तो it is not practically possible. तो आप ऐसे सिचुएशन में क्या कर सकते हैं? गो फॉर समथिंग सिंपल. 2-minute वॉक टेस्ट इज एक्सीलेंट. घर के किसी भी स्मॉल कॉरिडोर पे आप ये कर सकते हैं. दे नीड अ स्मॉल डिस्टेंस. यू कैन जस्ट टेल देम के अंदाज इतना एक डिस्टेंस आपके घर में है तो मैं आपको टाइम लगाती हूँ, आप बस चल के वापस आ जाइए विद इन 2 minutes. यू कैन एक्सप्लेन दिस टेस्ट टू अ फैमिली मेंबर सो दे कैन ऑल्सो मॉनिटर नो हाउ मच दे आर एबल टू वॉक. दिस टेस्ट वेरी सिंपल एंड यू कैन डेफिनेटली यूज इट. नाउ Apart from this test, even if you still think that this patient's house or the room where they are isolated is very cramped, no doctor, we can't do this test. ठीक है. दूसरा ऑप्शन क्या है हमारे पास? We can go for the 2 minute step test. ये टेस्ट और भी ज्यादा सिंपल है. All you have to do, ask your patient to stand. Okay, ask them to stand against a wall or a cupboard or anything. ठीक है. Or what you have to do, you have to ask your patient to measure the length from there. If this is the patient's leg, ask them to measure the length from their from the kneecap, okay, from their kneecap up to their hip, okay. Ye length, ask the patient to just measure it. So any point in between that will be the height up to which the patient will have to lift their leg. So you can tell the patient कि उस point को आपके wall पे mark कर दीजिए, and you can set 2 minutes on the timer. So when you set 2 minutes, your patient has to just kind of do a marching and try to touch their knees up to this mark. So if you have marked this on the wall, while they do the marching position, each time their knee will come up till this point and come down. So you can just count the number of repetitions. और इस टेस्ट के भी normative values available हैं आपके लिए. So please make sure that you use these. Okay. Now इसके अलावा, now apart from these tests, there are certain other functional tests that you can use. So one of these tests can be the modified push-up test. Now some of you may be wondering why push-ups difficult होगा, इसीलिए I said a modified push-up. बहुत simple है. You can do it for a female participant, you can do it for a male participant if they are young, if they are fit and you think they are in a position to do it. All you have to do, ask them to come in a crook lying position with their knees crossed. You can just set the timer and see for 1 minute in the modified push-up how many times they are able to do a push-up. इसके भी normative values available हैं. So this will tell you an overall upper limb strength. If this is not possible, you can go for just a simple wall push-up. Ask the patient to stand against the wall and just go for a wall push-up. See how many attempts they are able to do. Most of the time, even doing 10 repetitions, 10 or 12 repetitions in a very recent time of COVID will be difficult for the patients. So this will tell you what is the status of their upper extremity. Now, whatever test we saw, they were all for lower extremity, but for upper, you can definitely go for these tests like the wall push-up, a modified push-up or a regular push-up. That is also fine. Okay. Now, apart from this, there is another test if any one of you would like to read. It's called as an L test. So this test is kind of a modification to the tug. So in tug, what we did, we asked the patient to walk, take a turn, come back and sit down. Now, in some patients, this tug may be very, very easy. So you might achieve a ceiling effect. So in such patients, you can go for a simple L test. So L test में क्या करना है? You will have a chair and you have to just create an L path. Okay. So you can ask the patient कि आपके घर में एक ऐसा जगह आप choose करिए जहाँ पे आपको चलना है L shape में, turn होके वापस आके बैठ जाना है. So this is very possible in everyone's house. So the patient can walk from their living room, take a turn, go to their kitchen, take a turn, come back and sit down in the hall. So this L test is again very useful. This test has not been used so much for COVID, but it can still be used if you're clear about how you can, get it tested for your participant. Now, apart from this, you can also get a very detailed history about the patient's level of physical activity. Now, some of the patients may tell you that doctor, I've never done any exercise before, or abhi to aur bhi zyada thakan hai. So the moment a patient tells you they have done nothing, you know that they are going to be very, very deconditioned. So, but how would you know कि ये कितने deconditioned है? You can use one very good tool, that is a physical activity questionnaire, the PARC Q questionnaire. So you can send the questionnaire to the patient, a GPAC or an IPAC. These are nice questionnaires. You can just ask the patient, how tired are you feeling? How much time do you spend in a sedentary activity, just sitting in the whole day? So all this will get you to an understanding about how how strong this patient is. On the other hand, you will also get such patients who will say that, doctor, I go for a walk, every day I do 30 minutes walk, I do pranayam, this, that. So you know that you don't have to put so much energy for rehab in such a patient, because number one, they have already been doing therapy. and they are definitely going to stick to whatever you're telling because they are disciplined. So these are also challenges when you're giving tele rehab. So first understand what is the mindset of your patient, वो कितने prepared हैं ये सब करने के लिए, क्योंकि अगर patient बिल्कुल prepared नहीं है, आप जितना भी मेहनत करेंगे, it's not going to give you the results. Okay. Now, in case discussion, there's just one case I would like to discuss it because this was my practical experience. See, when all of us, as physiotherapists, we get a reference for tele rehab, we are kind of excited that, yes, I will make this patient completely all right. But before we decide to jump into giving a patient tele rehab, we need to understand that is this patient a right fit for tele rehabilitation? क्या ये एकदम सही candidate है मेरे लिए? तो ये example I will like to share with you all. I had a reference of a patient who was 58 years. He was from Bangalore who was referred to me for tele rehab. So this patient was admitted in a very good hospital in Bangalore for almost 4 weeks, and he was almost for 3 weeks in the ICU on a mechanical ventilator, very very deconditioned. So post COVID discharge, when he came back home, he was on a supplemental oxygen, almost like some 6 liters on no, on a face mask, and very very deconditioned, full day lying down on the bed. So when I got this patient's referral, I spoke to his wife, and I got a brief idea about what was his status, what is his health condition. She said that he was not very active previously, and now after COVID तो एकदम bedridden हो गए हैं, कुछ भी करते हैं तो बहुत ज्यादा fluctuations आते हैं उनके saturation और pulse rate में सब. So the patient party was also very concerned. I kind of made it clear to them that I will first see how he responds for tele rehab. So the first 2 to 3 sessions of tele rehab were very challenging for me. Why challenging? Because the patient is completely deconditioned. Okay. So even if I were to ask the patient to do, the patient was all time lying down in supine with an oxygen support, and even asking the patient to just bend his knee, a simple knee flexion or just an ankle movement, even that much was so much fatiguing for this patient. So I understood that it is going to take a lot of time, and tele rehabilitation is not the right choice for this patient. Immediately, I asked the patient party to discontinue therapy with me and call a physio to their house for rehab. And today, it is after May, it is almost a good 2 months, and the patient is able to walk in the house. So please, this is something I would say with caution, that use tele rehab very cautionately, because all your patients may not, they may not really benefit a lot with tele rehab. Some of them will require a very, very vigorous form of rehabilitation with a physiotherapist inside their house. So identify your patients, see if they are a right candidate. Only then do a proper detailed assessment and start off with your tele rehab. Because otherwise, you will just be giving long sessions and not seeing any recovery. And the patient party will also feel, they may become disinterested that कुछ change ही नहीं हो रहा, कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा है. And moreover, in such a deconditioned patient, even if you were asking the patient party to, assist them, you're telling them, okay, please turn the patient from supine to sideline. Even that much is causing so much of, fluctuation in hemodynamic parameters. So automatically, even the patient's caregivers panic. They are also wondering that, oh my God, the saturation was 92%. Doctor, it came down to, 83, 84. So these are challenges, mind you. These are real life challenges. And that is why I'm again stressing that please be wise when you're choosing the right candidate for tele rehab. Any patient with a moderate infection, with a mild infection, who's relatively stable, even if they are on supplemental oxygen, no problem. If you think they are cognitively fine with not that much deconditioning, it's a thumbs up. Definitely go ahead and do tele rehab. But if you think the patient is very deconditioned, एकदम ज़्यादा वो deconditioned है, और थोड़ा भी कुछ आप उनको सिखा रहे हो और उनके सारे पैरामीटर्स इतने ज्यादा फ्लक्चुएट हो रहे हैं, so please, that is a red alert to you to stop and immediately give a reference for another physiotherapist to go to the patient's house and do the therapy. Because by doing that, you're not only saving the patient's time, you're also, fastening their recovery. Because by simply prolonging a rehab which is not going to be effective, it's just going to make you disinterested and the patient disinterested. Okay. So this was a very important practical point which I wanted to share. So now, After all of this discussion on COVID, its symptoms, and the assessment tools, where and what is the scope for tele rehab? So we are aware that the third wave is coming. It's right somewhere around maybe August, September, October, November. We don't know when the third wave is coming. So I think you all know, is there scope for tele rehab? 100%, 100% there is scope for tele rehab. So if you are just going to start with your tele rehab practice, just make sure you're glancing through a few scientific papers, you're getting an idea as to what is happening around in the world. Now, the sad part is that in India, as of now, as of this very moment, we really don't have good scientific studies, randomized controlled trials, which are telling us about the fact that tele rehab effective hai. हमें नहीं पता. Case reports भी बहुत कम publish हो रहे हैं, so we really don't know. But I'm sure that मेरे जैसे आपके जैसे इतने सारे फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट हैं जो टेली रिहैब यूज कर रहे हैं. सो मेरी सिर्फ आप सबसे एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि व्हेन यू आर यूजिंग टेली रिहैब, प्लीज ये सारे टूल्स को इस्तेमाल करें. हैव अ वेरी ऑब्जेक्टिव असेसमेंट so that tomorrow if you are doing a rehab for a patient and you are getting some very very good findings, just write it as a case report and share it to the world. People like us are waiting to read good papers. So I'm sure that all of us are skilled, and if we have more papers coming out, we will all have a clear idea as to what to be done, how it is to be done. So please use assessment tools. I really request all of you to use these tools, because the more tools you use, you become very clear with what you're assessing. Okay. So these are some of the top two references. The first one is a very beautiful consensus recommendations paper. I really encourage all of you to go through this paper. The other one is a review paper. It's a light reading, but a very nice paper. So definitely check these resources. These are some additional reading blogs that I have written, which is somewhere related to COVID. And with this, the webinar from my side is done.